All right, let's see how we can find the least common multiple given a group of numbers. So remember, least common multiple is the smallest number that each and every one of these values can multiply into. So for this case, it's 30, and here it's 12. Okay, so what's our strategy? Well, first, we want to remove any zeros in the array, right? Because zeros do not affect least common multiples, but they will affect the way that we calculate them. So we can do something like nums is equal to nums.filter, and I'll just return all the values that are not equal to 0, like this. Yeah. All right, now to find the least common multiple, I'm going to find, hey, what's the biggest number that they put in? Once we find that biggest number, for this one, in this case, it's 8. Okay, and then we're going to check, hey, is every single one of these numbers divisible by 8? If they are, then that's your least common multiple. If not, you got to increase the 8. Okay, so now we can do something like this. Let's do const, and this is going to be my helper function. But before that, let's do const max is equal to math.max, and we're going to find the maximum number in our array. And then I'm going to do const, let's call this not all are divisible, and you'll see why. And this is going to be equal to a function, and this function will return nums.sum, and then in here, I'm going to take the value of this array and I'm going to check, hey, is our max number currently divisible by this value? Okay, so when I call this function, it's going to take our maximum number and it's going to check, hey, if I take that max number and I try to divide by every single number in your arguments array, will at least some of those numbers be not divisible? So that's what the triple not equals to 0 do. And if one of them is not divisible by the max, then the max cannot be the least common multiple. So therefore, we have to increase the maximum after that. So now you can just do a while loop. So while not everything is divisible, and remember, we need to call it. So while it's not divisible, let me change this to let, our max will have to increase. Now, after this while loop runs, we know that we're done, okay? Because it only runs when all of these are divisible. Okay, so then we just console.log, and then let's just say least common multiple is, and then we can just put in the max right here. All right, so if I call this with 4, 6, and 8, if we look on the right, we're gonna get 24, okay? If I put in a 2, it's still gonna be 24. If I put in a 10, then it's gonna be 120. Okay, let's see if we can improve this. So right now, let me also have a count. Let's do let times looped is equal to 0. And then whenever this while loop runs, I'm just going to increase our times looped. And then down here, let's just say looped times looped times. Okay. So right now, it looped 110 times. Okay. But we can actually improve this. Now, if you look at what it means to be a least common multiple, the least common multiple is always a multiple of the biggest number. So for this one, the biggest number is 15. The least common multiple is 15 times 2. Here, it's 4. Least common multiple is 4 times 3. Okay, so now that we know that, let me create another variable. I'll do let least common multiple. Let's just call this count. And count will be equal to max. And then right here, instead of checking if max is divisible by the value, I will check if count is divisible by the value. Okay. And then if not, instead of increasing it by 1, I'm going to do count plus equals max. Because if you really think about it, right, you can always check if all these numbers are divisible by multiples of the biggest number. Okay. So now we're just going to console.log count because that's our answer. And then if I undo this, you see that it only looped 11 times, right? Now, let's do this with 4, 6, and 8. LCM is 24, and it only looped 2 times. Yeah. If we change it back to what we had before, let's do max plus plus, and then let's change this back to max, and also this to max. So now, remember, this is the unoptimized version. It has to loop 16 times. Okay, so that's 8 more times than what we did to optimize it. Okay, I hope this was helpful. And yes, this would work with as many numbers as you want. Okay. See, it has to loop 242 times.